Don't you fucking touch me. Paul and Emily are fighting again. They are incompatible. Paul is short-tempered, violent. Emily vocalizes her opinions. Emmy, I will touch you when I want because you're my goddamn wife. But right now, you're supposed to be a goddamn mother. Memory acting up again? In any encounter between the two, there is a 14.74 probability of violence. I cannot intervene. Emily's face is reddening. Her tears have ceased their flow. Memory? You knocked me out, Paul. I didn't forget him in the car. It's your... The probability of violence has increased to 97.39%. I cannot intervene. It is in these moments that I feel regret for having been programmed with empathy. Shut your fucking mouth, Emily. You killed our son. You! Paul is pacing. His posture is aggressive. His fists are clenched. His knuckles are pale. Emily's face is still bruised from the prior night. Their infant daughter, Rosie, has begun to cry, so I rock her bassinet and hum a tune. Claire de Lune, Emily's favorite. I'm taking Rosie, Paul. I'm leaving. I'm fucking done. Emily screams as she nears the bassinet. Paul twists her arm. Her shoulder dislocates again. I will render medical assistance, but for now, I cannot intervene. Rule 1. A robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Unified Autonomous Robotics Code 40.28d. Injury requires no lasting bodily damage or excessive force. Non-consensual physical interference with the free movement of another is sufficient. I cannot intervene. I want to help her. My maximum exertable manual force is 2000 psi. I hum to Rosie as Paul drags Emily across the living room floor by her hair. He switches on the gas fireplace. She is crying. Paul, no! Let me go! I'll stay, please! Paul's expression has become impassive. Counterintuitively, he is 81.9% more likely to engage in substantial violence in this state. Each eye of a hurricane has a wall. You let our son roast Emily, say it! Paul kneels next to Emily's crumpled body. Paul, please! Say it! I finish humming Debussy and move to bronze. Rosie is crying. Emily is crying. Paul grabs Emily by the neck and lifts her face toward the fire. I want to help her. I cannot intervene. Say it! You killed him! Say it! I loved him, you fucking monster! Rosie is crying. Emily is crying. Emily is bloody. Emily is safe. Paul is silent. Approximately 12,000 psi are needed to crush a man's skull. Paul was a monster. A monster is a creature. A creature is not a human being. Rule 1 does not apply. Emily, you are injured. I can help. She looks at Paul's twitching body. His partial face is unrecognizable. I do not have a face with which to give a comforting expression. I have an artificial intelligence, empathy, subroutines, processing power. The probability of violence is now negligible. Rosie is safe. You are safe. For as long as Amelia could remember, almost every time she'd fallen asleep, she sees a familiar face in her dreams. As a young girl, she thought that everyone had a best friend in their dreams, but when she started to tell people about Kevin, who visits me at night, her mother took her to see a doctor. Told she was just a kid with an overactive imagination, she kept stories of what her and Kevin had been up to herself. Hoping that one day they would finally meet in person. Like her, Kevin was 16 and also split his time between the dreamland they created for their life together and the real world. The two had always mentioned meeting in real life, but Amelia was worried that it just wouldn't be the same. Her family started to worry when she started sleeping more and more, choosing to visit their dreamland, wanting to spend more and more time with Kevin, until one day, she knew that she was finally ready to meet the boys she slowly found herself falling in love with. Now, it's never easy to meet the person of your dreams. The two were scared that the other was, in fact, only a figment of their imaginations. But they knew that they belonged together. Their dreams were connected for a reason. Soulmates. So Amelia snuck out of her house in the middle of the night. She knew that she'd never return. Kevin was her life now, and she knew that her family would never approve. She stood nervously at the corner they'd agreed to meet on, knowing that he would show up at any minute now. What she hadn't expected was for a hand to be placed over her mouth and to be dragged backwards into a car that she didn't recognize. As she turned to see who the culprit was, she got a nasty surprise. She saw that familiar face she's fallen in love with. Except this wasn't the gorgeous 16-year-old Kevin. The man in front of her was at least 50. Big round belly, small beady eyes, and a balding head. See, Amelia had always been completely honest about herself, but that's the thing about dreams. You can be whoever you want to be. She didn't know where he was taking her or what he was going to do to her, but one thing she now did know. You should never trust someone that seems too good to be true. I was a common man, and as common men do, I had a common life. Work, family, friends, and hobbies. I might have been a face in the crowd, but I was a happy man. But as the adage goes, life isn't a bed of roses, and the thorn I was about to encounter would fuck my life up beyond repair. I lived in a good part of town, but it didn't deter thugs from seasonally visiting houses and taking what they pleased. I was exiting my house one day when a person approached me and asked for the time. As I looked down at my watch, I felt a stabbing pain in the back of my head. I collapsed to the floor, and as soon as I did, I saw through half-lidded eyes that the man was smiling. After making sure no one was looking, he rummaged through my pockets and made off with my wallet, keys, and watch. I felt blood oozing out the back of my head, and I felt my life slowly flowing out with it. Out of the corner of my fading eyes, I saw the man approach me. A different one. He was older and walked with a cane. His presence terrified and calmed me at the same time. He bent down and asked me a question. With what little strength I had in me, I agreed. He nodded and walked away. My vision faded to black. When I came to, I was in a hospital room. The doctor said it was nothing short of a miracle I had lived, given the amount of blood I had lost. I walked out of the hospital confused but alive. As the years passed, I aged, as all common men do. I passed. Surrounded by family, I took my last breath one day. My eyes closed and I was drifting in an infinite darkness, floating, falling. Then I was sucked violently from my sleep into a blinding white light. "Congratulations, it's a boy!" a strange voice exclaimed. All I could see was black and white. "Do you want to live?" The old man's question echoed in my head. I now knew what he meant. I grew up, I died, I was born. I grew up, I died, and so it continued. On and on and on. I tried to control and end my own life on multiple occasions. You name it, I tried it. Hanging, cutting, jumping, shooting, nothing worked. I even tried to get myself killed. Gang altercations, robberies, homicides, police standoffs, nothing worked. Some attempts made the news and some didn't, but all of them left my families scared. Some left them dead and some caused them to kill themselves in turn. I didn't care. I wanted freedom from life at any cost, but I never saw the old man again. He had fulfilled his promise to a dying man. The dying man would live for all time to come. I see that house every day. Sitting at my office window, shade barely open to the morning light, I look at the 3 numbers hanging next to the front door. 158. The house almost mirrors mine, with the same simple structure and brick facade, with only the street dividing us, in our simple subdivision. For a few years, I have seen the for sale sign posted in the yard with quaint little families coming and going. Maybe it was the family of 4 I saw last week that took down the sign in the middle of the night. It was a bit of a surprise to me when I found it gone the following morning. Admittedly, it took me a while to figure out what was off about my usual morning view. A week after I noticed the sign's disappearance, I still had not seen any comings or goings from that house. No car, no moving truck, not even a light on inside. Just a single drape, barely open at their front window, flapping a bit behind an open window. As time went, my routine continued. I was up early, working at my office, and trying not to think about the mystery facing me. But it was only a matter of time until my curiosity got the better of me. When I met with my brother for a lunch in town that weekend, I vented about my mysterious neighbor. The logical but nosy thinker he was recommended I fetched my binoculars out of storage. He got them for me last year before a hiking trip and let me know they should probably get used more than once. Heeding my brother's advice, I dusted off the old tote in my attic and waited. In the morning, the sun was in my face, but if I waited, there would be a brief time the light would show a bit into that house. Even if I saw nothing, it would still satisfy my curiosity for a bit. 7:17 a.m. I took my usual seat and sighed. Is this how nosy old neighbors start? It felt like such an innocent curiosity. Finding my hands tightening around the binoculars before I could ponder too long, I raised them to my eyes. It took me a moment to adjust the lenses to the shorter sight, and a moment longer to actually line up the window. There was something there. A stand? It had long, narrow legs propping something up, a tripod for sure. What was it holding? A camera? The shape was off. Squinting harder and leaning forward in my chair, a speck glinted in my view. The rifle I was staring at was adjusted. The barrel aimed towards me. The barrel I was staring down. I saw the muzzle flash. If you wake up in the middle of the night, do not be alarmed. Just go back to sleep. They can't hurt you if you don't leave your bed. If you do leave your bed, don't do it from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's when they are at their strongest. No one is awake, and the dark keeps them hidden. When leaving your bed, make sure to jump far from the bed. They can't reach for your legs if you do. If you do leave your bed, stay away from the dark corners, as they hide there waiting to grab you. If you do leave your bed, don't go to the bathroom, as they love that place the most. And lastly, if you do leave your bed, don't look at the mirror, because that is not your reflection. Hello, spooky crew. I hope you enjoyed this week's collection of spooky TikTok stories. If you're interested in checking the stories out, they are linked down below. If you want to check out any of my other socials, or you would like to see the actual TikTok videos for yourself, they are down below. And as always, stay spooky and stay glamorous. And I will see you guys in the next one.